Okay. Hello and welcome to chapter 28. This is going to be about recruitment. That is building a team or starting without one. When recruiting, the goal is to find great people and attract them to your company. Since this is so important, you could rationalize throwing lots and lots of time into this problem. And this is what most growing companies do. Unfortunately, this time suck will grind most of your other functions to a halt. Efficiency. The key is efficiency in recruiting. And to be efficient, you must spend as less time as possible with the candidates that you don't hire. Quick evaluation, and as much time as possible with the candidates that you want to and do hire, building a relationship, training, and onboarding. Remember that each minute you spend with a candidate that you don't hire is a minute that you aren't spending with a team member that you want to hire. Of all the recruiting systems that I have seen, the best is described in the Who by Joe Smart and Randy Street. This is another book recommendation. I have summarized the recruiting system in Appendix B. So, and if this system resonates with you, I highly recommend reading the book Who to understand the details. So, should we go to this point? Yeah, maybe we'll take a look at it later, or let's take a look at it now. Okay, recruiting ad. So this is a summarized version of the book. Oh, this is quite lengthy too. This is quite lengthy. So methodology, recruiting ad. This is the company and mission. And yeah, EAs and VAs usually help with recruitment, especially when you're just you, the founder or CEO, and then maybe one or two other people. So sometimes you help with posting job posts, getting applications, and then reviewing the applications and all that. So I've been in that process too, so I think I have an idea of this, how this works, how VAs contribute to this process too. So if you're a VA and you're given this process, you want to have an idea, a good idea of how this works. Methodology, there's a scorecard, there's a source. All hiring managers systematically source before we have slots to fill. Select, we conduct structured interviews that rate candidates against the scorecard that we've created. Sell, finally, we persuade the best candidates to join the team. In Nigeria, there's very little persuading involved because HR people in Nigeria, they just believe that there's going to be talent. So I've not really, I've only been in an interview process where I was persuaded, and that was not a Nigerian team. I mean, they were making me very good offer, and they were still persuading me to come on board and giving me everything that I needed to do that job. And it's really nice to feel valued that way. But sometimes the experience is radically different within this country. So you have a scorecard, you have a mission. What is the mission for the position? What are the outcomes that you're looking for? I'm just going to do a run through of this. And then it gives some examples. What traits or habits do we require for this person to have? Alignment. We pressure test the scorecard by comparing it with the company slash department's roadmaps and the scorecards of others and the person will interface with. So source, we're constantly sourcing, identifying the who before a new hire is really needed. So there are three sources of candidates: referrals from our network, recruiters, and then researchers. Referrals of these three referrals are from our personal and professional networks are by far the most effective. Please fill out the top 20, your top 20 candidates. Okay, so this is a Google form. Here is our process for sourcing. So this is my Mochary sharing this process, and then you select. You have phone screen interview. So that's his own method, and he summarizes his method here. You have on-site interviews. So let's go back to the book. So before recruiting, what should you do or have in mind? As a hiring manager, write out a 90-day roadmap. Yeah, this is really important. This is what Nigerian HR managers just really need to get: a 90-day roadmap. I've been in positions where there was no 90-day roadmap, and you just technically was hired because somebody left and there was a vacancy, so they immediately hired. And in immediately hiring, you'd expect you to hit the ground running, so to say. But it would be a lot more helpful if there is a 90-day roadmap available. And I've seen that international teams, international recruiters usually have this 90-day roadmap for the position you need to fill. This roadmap includes all the all the goals that the new team member will be expected to hit within the first 90 days of joining. This is critical for successful onboarding. During the interview process, share this roadmap with the candidate to make sure that she is excited about these goals. Selling. The best candidates will get offers from from other companies. So you need to not only evaluate but also sell from the very beginning. So you sell by building a relationship. Just as in fundraising, building a relationship with a recruit will vastly increase the likelihood that she or he will want to join your company. The best candidates can work anywhere. Make sure they want to work with you. Do this by using the same techniques mentioned earlier. Ask the candidate about herself, reflect back what she says, roughly the same thing that we had in the other process. Speed. This is another key variable to making recruits want to accept your offer. It's speed. A recruit wants to feel loved. The easiest way to accomplish this is to have a fast process from start to finish. Each day of delay sends the message we don't have conviction about you. If you doubt whether this really exists, just recall when you raised money. Which investors were the most compelling for you? The ones that responded and decided quickly, or those that lingered in their decision process for weeks or months? Benchmark and Sequoia are famous for making investment offers within days and sometimes hours of meeting a company that they are excited about. The offer is always pending due diligence. So there is plenty of time after the fact to discover critical information. In recruiting, you would make an offer to the candidate pending reference interviews. Here's what a streamlined process looks like. So I think the most culture that I've been exposed with in my experience with interviews both locally and abroad is that the the recruitment, they hire you, they do all of their due diligence before they hire. But what Mochary is saying is you can make the offer as quickly as possible to show you value these candidates. And then that offer will be pending reference interviews, for example, pending due diligence. So after that offer is made and then you get the client to feel loved and feel that the position has been secured, you then do your interviews. So sometimes the company might give a one like a test period of 2 weeks. I've seen job vacancies where the test period was 2 weeks. They say we'll test you for 2 weeks. So that is roughly also pending verification after the 2 weeks. So you can make it a pending based on whatever you feel is right for your company at the time. But the lesson here is to be quick about it too. And this is not a permanent decision, although the employees usually have a great impact and significance on the company, but this is not a permanent solution. If you hire somebody you weren't supposed to hire, you can easily just go back on hiring that person. So you can use spending reviews. This is what Mashari is saying, not me saying this, but I understand what it says, and I feel that this is true for applicants. You contact a candidate and schedule a short phone interview. At the phone interview, the candidate appears to be an A player. You immediately schedule a full day on-site interview to meet with all the needed interviewers. This is easily done because you already followed calendar cadence, and so all needed interviewers have scheduled to be at the office on recruiting day to review to on the recruiting day to interview. Using this method, you can have several candidates for on-site interviews on the same day. At the end of the day, the interview team convenes and makes a decision. If yes, you reach out to the candidate that evening and say, "We love you. We want you to work at our company. We'd like to make you an offer pending reference interviews." You have a verbal discussion about what a successful offer would look like. You ask them to complete this phrase. I would join your company as long as, okay, you have a verbal discussion about what a successful offer would look like, as long as. So this is the employee or the candidate saying, as long as this condition is met, I will join your company. You address this request. If all are doable, you move to the next stage. You conduct reference interviews. If those are positive, you reach back out to the candidate. The reference interviews were great. Would like for you to join our company. If we make you the following offer, explain every detail of the offer, including benefits, etc., would you accept? Go back and forth until you have a verbal agreement. You invite the candidate in for an offer ceremony wherein you make them the offer and they accept. There is more detail on the offer process below. This process can take as little as 2 weeks from first contact to accepted offer. If your process becomes that fast, your acceptance rate from top candidates will start to resemble that of Benchmark and Sequoia. Of course, because your acceptance rate will be so high, you can then afford to become incredibly picky and choose only the best of the best. Compensation. How much compensation do you offer new team members? How much cash and equity? My preferred method is to discover the market compensation for the position. There are plenty of online compensation studies that show this. Market compensation is whatever a big company, Microsoft, Facebook, Google, is paying for this position. Discover the amount of cash that the new team member will need to live comfortably: housing, food, transportation, child expenses, etc. It is up to the startup to match the market compensation level, not in cash as the larger companies do, but rather in a much lesser amount of cash, no less than the amount needed to live comfortably, plus equity to bridge the difference. Here is an example to show how the equity portion is calculated. Let's say the position is a level 3 engineer who is paid $300,000 in total compensation at Google. The team member requires $120,000 in cash to live comfortably and wants to invest the remainder in startup equity. The amount of equity is calculated by taking the difference between market and cash, which is $180,000, and multiplying it by 4 years. 180,000 multiplied by 4 years, that's 720,000. This amount is then divided by a factor somewhere between 1 and 2, which represents a very conservative estimate of the increase in value of the equity over 4 years. A1 represents no expected increase in value. A2 represents a 2x expected increase in value. If 1.5 were used, which is the most common factor used, the final amount would be 720 divided by 1.5, which is $480. $480,000. That's roughly 50%. So not 1%, not 50%, but roughly like 70% or so. So grant this amount in options. However, however much equity it purchases at the company's current valuation, the options vest over 4 years. I prefer to then make an offer. Now, let me say something about this. Is not my experience for VA. The most experience for VAs, like very few VAs will get to a point where they are offered stock options or offered equity. So, but a good compensation, however, especially for VAs who are overseas VAs, hired overseas VAs, can cater to living expenses. I prefer to then make an offer that allows the new team member to choose how they want to invest in the startup equity. To invest in the startup equity at 3 different levels. The lowest cash level would be the level needed to live comfortably. Here's an example in which the company is currently worth $50 million. The company will likely need to do another major round of financing along with optional pool refresh before it gets to maturity. So you have a $1 billion eventual value of the company, which results in 10x increase of the value. So this valuation, like if you're a VA, don't dream about this. Well, let me take that back. If you're a VA, you can absolutely want to dream about this. And to think that I just said that now, and I was recently in an interview, and the HR, when I asked for feedback, the HR told me to dream big. And now I'm saying don't dream this big. Um, that's bad. That's a mistake on my part. I need to dream big. I need to dream big. So the hope is that the new team member believes so fully in the company and the power of the asymmetric bet that they choose one of the two higher equity offers. This equity is thus an investment that the team member is making in the company. And with a huge advantage, the investment is made with pre-tax dollars, which doubles its purchasing power. Making the offer. Before making an offer, it is critical to know that the candidates will accept. To know that the candidates will accept. Once you have the offer prepared, contact the candidates and ask them to complete the following phrase: I will join the company as long as. They then should state all their requirements. If you're willing to provide each of these, then you're going to have a successful hire. If there is one that you cannot provide, discuss it with the candidate to see if there is some alternative that you can both accept. Once this process is complete, then ask the candidate, if we were to make you the following offer, state the offer in full detail, cash benefits and all that. Would you accept? If they say yes, then make them offer. If you skip this step and simply make the offer, then it is very common for them to ask for a few more things after the fact. You will then be in the awkward position of either having to give these and thereby allowing a political culture to begin, or starting the relationship on a negative note by saying no. It is far better to get the candidate to pre-agree in full detail before making the offer. Then the relationship begins with a resoundingly positive yes. Thank you. I'm so excited. This is my experience so far with joining an international team. In the interviews, they would ask you and say, this is what we're offering, this is the compensation. They'll explain it, and then they'll ask you, do you accept? They haven't even offered you a job, but they'll ask you, do you accept? And the reason they're doing that beforehand is so that you understand what the offer is going to be eventually when you get it. So says here are some possibilities: hand the written offer to the candidate with two hands and a ceremonial bow. This is physically, but onboarding. Let's just go to onboarding. Most companies spend extraordinary resources of time, money, and equity to bring on a new team member, and then almost entirely drop the ball on quickly getting that team member onboarded and up to speed on how the company works so that they can begin making a full contribution. Don't make this mistake. Give onboarding even more attention, time, and energy than you give to recruiting. After all, many of the people that you are spending time with during recruiting will not become team members, whereas 100% of the people that you spend time with during onboarding are already team members. Focus your energy there. That is, focus your energy on onboarding. Spend more time on onboarding than you spend on recruiting. Write a checklist of all the information that a team member would need to be fully effective. Write all of this information down, make a video of it, share this checklist, the written information, etc., and the 90-day roadmap with each new team member as early as you can, even before they start. On their first day at the office, have them come in 2 hours after the normal start of the day. So there are plenty of people there to greet the team member and so on and so forth. So if it's virtual, then a similar thing is done virtually and not necessarily remotely. So firing, inevitably some team members will have to go, allowing this non-performance on basis of non-performance, you have to allow them go, will be a moral killer for the rest of the team, in addition to financial drain at the company. So um, if it happens that you have people who are quiet quitting in the company, then you want to let them go. For the health of the company, you must let this quiet quitter or this person who isn't performing go. The expedient thing to do is to let them go immediately. However, if you do not have written documentation of why you're firing someone, they can initiate a wrongful termination these lawsuits are rarely successful, but they are distracting to respond to. If you want to minimize the chance of one of these lawsuits occurring, then create written documentation. A secondary benefit of this documentation is that there is a small chance that the person will begin to perform. So create a PIP, performance improvement plan, that states objective milestones and dates over 7, 30, 60, and 90-day period. Meet weekly to check progress against the written milestones. At 30 days, if he or she hasn't hit the milestones, then you let him go. At 60 days, the same. At 90 days, do the same. If at any of these stages the team member does not hit a milestone and you do not hire them, then you have completely invalidated the value of the written document, because you have established a provable pattern that the written document was not meaningful. Again, know that there is a very low chance that he will perform. If your team is very small, under 10 people, I recommend simply letting the person go without the PIP. The cost of demotivating the team is far greater than the than that of the lawsuit. So if it's a small team, you don't need a PIP, just the person go immediately. But if it's a big team and the person has been there a while, is saying do a PIP before letting them go. When you do fire someone, put yourself in their shoes. Yeah, it's devastating emotionally, and it's a real financial setback. And the team will be watching how closely you treat ex-employees. So put real effort into helping the person find their next job, and quickly give them a severance package that gives them enough time, and this is 1 month minimum, but more realistically 2 to 3 months, and then help them find work within that time frame. Because you value transparency, make an announcement to the company about the person's departure, or allow the person to do it themselves. When you make the announcement, praise the person's contribution to the company and take ownership yourself for the fact that you weren't able to match their skills to the company's needs. Do not blame or criticize the person. Instead, take responsibility for the situation. It is highly likely that you will be feeling anger toward this person. You will clearly value the rest of your team much more highly than this person. You will not want to give them an extra penny beyond what is required by law, which is 2 weeks. You will want to save these resources for the team that remains, that is performing. Feeling this anger and then let it pass. Recognize that you have responsibility here. Your recruiting, training, managing, or lack thereof helped create this situation. It is your responsibility to help the person find a job and the company that is a better fit. If you want to save your company's resources, then help them find that job more quickly, and then turn to your recruiting, training, and managing processes and ask yourself, what can I do to make sure this doesn't happen again? Because this is the most important thing. You have to reduce burnout rates, or churnout rates. That is the rate at which employees go or have to go or have to be let go. If you do this, not only will you be doing the right thing and taking responsibility for your actions, but you will also create a culture of safety in your company. It will put your existing team members at ease, allowing them to perform better at their jobs, and the news of this culture will spread quickly, and your Glassdoor reviews will rise. This will in turn will make your this in turn will make your company a far more desirable place to work, and your rate of acceptance will go up dramatically. Yes, doing the right thing often pays for itself several times over. I call this process above firing well. If you learn how to do it, then you also get the benefit of being able to let people go sooner. Once you realize that they are not a fit, because doing so will not create trauma for the person or the person or you can also take more chances on hiring people with high potential but less proven experience, since you now have a safe mechanism for ending the relationship if the potential doesn't materialize. These two actions will further strengthen your team and your company. So that is that on recruiting. Remember, there is an extra resource on recruiting about how he and his team do recruiting. So for further reading, especially if you're a recruitment VA or a people VA, you want to take a look at that for further reading. I'm not going to take a look at that here because I'm just doing this for general VA roles. So in our next chapter, we're going to look at sales. Thanks for watching. This one was short, yeah. So thanks for watching. God bless you in the next video.